Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. This is going to be the March edition of my TBR game, TBR Pursuit, and I was able to complete the entire TBR from February, so that means not only do I not have to take a punishment, but I also get to reward myself with a little book shopping, so I'll probably film a haul in the next week or so keep an eye out for that. But let's go ahead and just get right to it. So a quick rundown before I get to actually filming TBR Pursuit. For anyone who didn't watch last month, I used the Lord of the Rings TBR board, and I created prompts based off of my most common 6 genres that I read, which are romance, fantasy, classics, Judaism, psychology. There is another category. If I land on one of these bigger squares, one of the headquarter spots, then that is a miscellaneous. So I technically have 7 different genres or 7 different colors to choose from. And then if I land on a roll again spot, then that means I add another book to the TBR. So I'm really excited because I've been so curious about what I was going to read for March, especially because I will be traveling in March, and so I want to try to, this is going to sound a little silly, I think. I want to try to pick books that are based around New York City, because that's where I'm going mid-March. And so I think that'll just sort of help me get into, like, the vibes. Maybe. I don't know how many books I actually have that are based in New York. So, we'll see. Let's just go ahead and get started. So first things first, I'm going to take my cards out and shuffle them a little bit, just because last month when I filmed, I just put the cards I used from last month in the back, and so if, I want to increase the likelihood of getting those again while also just shuffling it a little bit more. So I roll 7 times because that is my monthly average of how many books I can read. So let's see if I stay at 7 or if I end up with 9 like I did last month. 1. Okay, so I have my choice of colors here. And the difficult part is I have to remember which colors go with which genre. So green is Judaism, red is romance, orange is LGBT. You know what? I don't remember. So I'm just going to choose a random color. Let's just go yellow. I think yellow is fantasy, now that I have given up trying to remember. So what I do is I just grab the first yellow that is here, which is my smallest book. So smallest in this context is my shortest book. So my smallest fantasy. Okay, that should be interesting. So for my first roll, I got a fantasy that is my smallest book, and that is The Second Mango by Shira Glassman. This is about a ruler of the land of Perach, and the queen's name is Shalimit, and pretty much she is upset about, well, she's more than upset, but she's grief-stricken because she inherited the throne when she was 20, so she's mourning her parents, and she's also upset because her sweetheart pretty much, like, ran away, and so she's the only lesbian in this kingdom. And so she teams up with this other woman named Rivka, and they fly around on Rivka's dragon looking for other women who love women. So it should be a really cute, fun book, and it's 168 pages long. So that bodes well, especially for going to New York. Unfortunately, obviously, this is not set in New York City. 6. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I could go blue, or because I didn't do this enough last month, I could always go back to one of these. So it would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it would be any of these outer rings. I think I'm going to go ahead and go over here to this red. 1, because it's closer to the camera. And 2, because this is romance, and I have a romance in mind that I want to read. If it fits. Oh. Ha! I was wrong. Red is not romance. Red is classics. And it's my shortest classic, which will also be interesting. For my second roll, I got a classic that was also the smallest book, which made selecting it pretty easy. And so I got Night by Elie Wiesel. This is the record of the author's experience in a camp during the Holocaust and what he went through. I've read another book by Wiesel, which was called Open Heart, about when he was getting open heart surgery and the things he was reflecting on at that time. So I know that I like him as an author, and I also know that this is like really important reading that I just, for some reason, I haven't read yet. So I'm really glad that I'm able to finally like get to it. 3. 1, 2, 3, orange. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2. Okay. So I can do orange, or I could do roll again. I'm gonna do orange. If I can avoid a roll again this month, I will, just because I pretty much 5 days I'm not going to be reading. So orange. Orange is romance. It's good to know. And it's a hardback. So that doesn't quite fit for the book that I had in mind, but we'll see what I come up with. For my next roll, I got a romance that is a hardback. Surprisingly, I don't have that many. I think I had like 4 to choose from. And so I went through and found one that is set in New York City, which is one of the few books that I was able to get so far. But it's 9.5 Weeks by Elizabeth McNeill. And I believe, from what I know, this is a recounting of the author's experience in a relationship that explored like some kinky aspects and what she learned about herself, I believe. I know that it's pretty spicy, but it's also pretty short. So that's fun. It's, yeah, like 113 pages. So cool. 3, 2. Any of those? 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Jewish book that is most anticipated. I have a book in mind for this, so one moment. So for my next roll, I got a Jewish book, which was my most anticipated. So I went ahead and selected a seasonally appropriate book, because within the first week of March is Purim, which is a Jewish holiday celebrating when we weren't killed by our enemies. And so we like throw a big party for that, and we're all very excited. But I happen to have a book series on my Kindle, so I'll put it up here, by Roz Alexander, who writes Jewish lesbian novellas, I think they're technically, but she has one for Purim, which is called A Masc for Purim. And it's about, I'm pretty sure, a femme woman who hosts a Purim party every year, and she's, you know, looking for love. She's not having the best time until she reconnects with a butch past lover. And it is also supposed to be pretty steamy, it's supposed to be pretty angsty, and it's supposed to be set around Purim. So I figured, great, it's definitely my most anticipated at this moment. 3. I'm getting a lot of 3s. All right, 1, 2, 3. Just a classic, or one, or any of the second ring. You know, I don't have any brown. So let's see. Alright, so this is a psychology book with an odd number pages. For my next roll, I got a psychology book with an odd number of pages. For whatever reason, a lot of psychology books have even pages, which I find interesting. So I ended up picking up The Body Keeps the Score, which is about healing from trauma. So it should be pretty heavy book. I can't say I'm looking forward to it, but I think it will be useful both in my own personal life and with the people around me. And it has a lot of notes at the back. I'm trying to get to the last page of actual content. So there's about 358 actual content, but there's 445 pages. I went off of Storygraph. It said it had an odd number, so it's what I'm gonna read. Alright, 6th roll. I'm so glad that I am not one of those booktubers who, for every double, I add a roll. I know Becca on the Books does that when she plays Bookopoly, and I'm incredibly glad that I'm not doing that, because that's my, 4th 3? Alright, so 1, 2, 3, orange, or 1, 2, and another round. Do I just want to... Alright, so I could do another orange, which is romance, or I could do blue, which I believe is nonfiction. I could be wrong. I've completely forgotten what my categories are. I'm gonna go ahead and do orange, because I don't really want another nonfiction right now. Spoiler alert, I just looked at a blue card and it's LGBT, so my bad. Alright, a first in a series. I think I have a book in mind for this. For my next roll, I got a romance that is the first in a series. I had a couple choices, and I was really torn between 2, but I ended up with the one I picked, obviously. And I'm really excited for both of them, and the only reason the one I picked won out was because it had a higher rating on Storygraph, because I want to be sure I'm reading good books, you know? So I picked up Wolf Song by T.G. Klune. From what I know about it, it is a queer romance with werewolves. And I think, I haven't seen anything confirming this online, but I've seen hints of how there might be alpha, beta, omega dynamics, which makes me really excited. I really like that dynamic, and I usually only see it in fanfiction, so I would love to read a book with it, and I hope that I'm right. If I am, please leave a comment confirming, and I will probably read this as soon as possible. This is what I get for talking without actually reading the back cover. Ox was 17 when he found out the boy's secret, and it painted the world around him in colors of red and orange and violet, of alpha and beta and omega. Okay, great. So this is what I was hoping. Woo! Yeah, so this is going through quite a chunk of Ox's life, I believe. It talks about how when he was 12, he learned that he was worthless from his dad. Great. When he was 16, he met a boy, and felt connected to him. When he was 17, learned about Alpha, Beta, Omega. When he was 23, there was a murder in his town. And so now, Ox is 26 when the book is happening. And the boy that he met when he was 16 is back. So I don't know a ton about this book. I just know that a lot of people that I follow on Instagram really love it. And now that I know for sure that ABO is in it, I am really excited. Alright, last roll probably. I don't know if you can see. It's another 3. I feel like this game is cursed. 1, 2, 3. Okay. So, I either have a roll again or a psychology book. I don't really want to do psychology. Another psychology. So, I guess we're adding a book. So great. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and go this way. One. Alright. So, I can do orange, which is romance, or blue, which is LGBT. I'm going to go ahead and do LGBT. It's always fun when I haven't played in a month and I forget the thing that I created. Okay. I need to shuffle better next time because now I have my shortest LGBT book. Whoops. So for my next book, I got an LGBT, which is the smallest book. Hopefully next month I don't get smallest book prompts. Like I mentioned last month that a lot of the genres have similar prompts, but I didn't expect to get 3 of them in one video. So I'm really sorry about that. Technically, my smallest LGBT book is The Second Mango, but because I already picked that, I went to my next, which is a memoir by Simcha called Becoming Shameless. They actually sent me an arc of this, and I just didn't get a chance to read it before it was actually published. So it's just sitting in my email waiting to be read. So I'm really excited to read this. You know, I really like Eden's content that they put out. And so I think it'll be really good. And from the reviews that I've seen from other people, they really enjoyed it as well. So I think it'll be really great. 5. Okay. A nice big number. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So yellow, which I know is fantasy. Or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so I guess we're reading fantasy for the last one. Making sure. Okay, here we go. And a hardback fantasy. Really great. Okay. And then finally, I got a fantasy that was a hardback, which I had, you know, some options with this, but I went ahead and actually picked up one that I'm pretty excited for. So I'm finally reading Babel by RF Kuang. So this is a dark academia book about our main character, Robin, who is an orphan from China and is raised in Britain. And he spends his childhood learning different languages for the goal of going into Oxford's linguistics program, which is also known as Babel. But there's also a magic element about how the meaning of words can be used in conjunction with these like silver bars to create magic. And there's also a lot about, you know, Robin feeling sort of torn between Britain, where he was raised, and China, where his family is from, and, you know, he feels this connection to, especially when Britain decides that they're going to go to war with China over silver and opium. So I'm predicting some angst, but I also think it's going to be really fascinating, and everyone that I know that has read this has really enjoyed it. And so I'm really looking forward to this one. So I also wanted to acknowledge that I actually have 2 other books that I'm reading this month that just didn't fit in any of my prompts because my prompts were very specific. So I'm also reading Mike at Wrykyn by P.G. Wodehouse for the podcast that I do with my dad about the works of Wodehouse. So that is our book for March. It shouldn't be that long, quite honestly. It's one of like the school books, so it's the shorter stories. And it's about this guy named Mike. I don't know anything about it. That's the premise of the podcast, is I don't know anything about the book that we're discussing until we actually discuss it. So I'll tell you more about it when I read it. The other book is called Suburban Dicks by Fabian Nicieza. I might be pronouncing that wrong, and I'm very sorry if I am. And that is for my family book club. My cousin Nick picked it out, and I guess the author is also a writer for the Deadpool comics, and he said that it was really funny, and it's sort of like a murder mystery, which I don't mind murder mysteries. On Storygraph it also says that's thriller, which I'm not super thrilled about, but I do trust my cousin's taste, so I will also be reading that. So I got up to 10 books again for March, which was completely unintentional, but luckily, I think like half of them are decently short, under 150 pages, so it shouldn't be that bad, honestly, even taking out 5 days for travel. So that's my March TBR. Only one of the books is set in New York City, which is a little disappointing. I think Masc for Purim might be. I could be wrong. I'm probably wrong. I'll let you know. But that's it for me. So comment if you've read any of these books, if any of these books are on your TBR as well. I'd really like to know and connect with other people, so maybe we can like gush about them. And subscribe, because it means a lot to me when people subscribe, and it makes me really happy. But other than that, look out for the wrap-up coming up, and then check in with my vlogs to see my real-time thoughts about the books that I'm reading. Bye!